Hi VC, it's Aaron, Mitha Alamer. Now today I'm going to start a new series, and it was inspired by my great friend Josh. Now that's JC from the flip side, and a while back he did a video called 10 Albums That Changed My Life. And I know he didn't start it, someone else did, but I don't remember. A few people have done this or similar things to it. I'm going to put my own spin on it and make this into a short series, because I was just going to copy that and kind of do my 10 albums, but I realized I have much more albums that have influenced my life than that and have changed my life. And I went through specific stages in my life where my music taste flipped, and I had a run of records that really changed, you know, how I listen to music and what I still listen to, and influenced what came afterwards. So I'm going to start off with my early years, which are my, you know, from about 3 years old up until before I was a teenager. And these are mainly inspired by my parents, because luckily when I was a kid, my parents were always listening to music. We had a record player in the house. We had an 8-track player in the car. So they were always either, I was, picking out records and playing them, and, just immersed in the cover and the lyrics, even at a very young age. And it really is, my musical obsession, as I can put it, started when I was about 3 years old. And this is the first record I remember distinctly hearing, and it totally changed my life. And I've become obsessed with music ever since. And music has become almost the most important thing in my life for my whole life because of these first few records here. And then, I'll go through all the different changes. But this is the album here. Abbey Road was the first album I distinctly remember hearing. I was about 3 years old. And I remember, Come Together coming on. But when it finally got to Octopus's Garden, I just couldn't wait for that song to play. Whenever I heard this record, I was like excited whenever Octopus's Garden would come on, and I became obsessed with this record and the Beatles at like 3 years old. And so, hearing this record here, and then they also had Revolver on vinyl. So I heard those two records on vinyl were two of the earliest memories of music I ever had. And that's probably why they're still two of my top 3 Beatles records. And I love both of these. Of course, we had the US version of Revolver at that point, without the 4 songs. But I loved looking at these covers. You see so much in this cover. And when you're a little kid looking at that and just listening to the music while it's going on, it just really, those changed my life. And then also we had this on 8-track, Magical Mystery Tour. So those 3 Beatles records were so influential in me, and they kind of shaped my musical taste afterwards as well. And so, we had a few other records when I was a kid, and I have a few of them here, and I will show them. And these records I still love to this day. Some of them I don't love as much as others, but these albums always stuck with me, and they were kind of the building blocks of what was to come later. And next up was Jim Croce, Life and Times, and this is the actual album my parents had when I was a kid. That's why it's still got all the ring wear, and it still sounds good. I played this to death, and, of course, it has all the lyrics inside, and I would just read those lyrics. I learned how to read at like 3 years old, so I was reading along with this at 3, 4, 5 years old, and just immersed in the music. And this album here, fantastic. That was my first taste of Jim Croce and like the folk music, and I've always loved that record, and all of his 3 records I really love. Another one we had when I was a young kid, this is the actual record we had, and this is Paul Simon's Greatest Hits. And there's the same thing with this. It has all the lyrics, and that was my favorite thing, was sitting down, listening to the music, and reading along with the lyrics. And it just, some songs I like better than others, of course, but these albums, this is the actual record, had since I was a kid. Absolutely love that record. And then, when I got older, I kind of faded away from these records, but I'd go back to them, and they bring back memories. And I distinctly remember one Christmas, my parents got this record, and we listened to it for months and months and months. And this is one I don't like quite as much now, but it definitely influenced me then. It was Ingrid Dan and John Ford Coley with Nights Are Forever. Had the big hit, I'd really love to see you tonight. It's probably one of my least favorites of these, except for this next one. But still, these influenced me, and they stick with me. And I hear them again, and when I hear them again, it just brings me right back to being a little kid. This is another one, Pablo Cruz, A Place in the Sun. Now, I would put this on. We had a record player, and when I'd go to bed, I'd put this on, and we had one of those stacking record players, and I'd always have this on and fall asleep to this for some reason. I don't know why, but this album had A Place in the Sun, What You Gonna Do, and I just always listen to this when my sister pointed that out to me a couple of years ago when she was visiting. She couldn't remember what record it was, and she was remembering me always playing that when you know, we'd be going to bed, you know. And so, and another one. So in the car we had an 8-track player, of course. Well, you know, it was the 70s. So this one here was one that we played. These next ones are all ones I had on 8-track. And this one here, we played constantly, the 8-track of it. And it was my first, you know, experience listening to Elton John. I love the song, you know, even then I liked Saturday Nights Are Right for Fighting. But Your Song was always one I really loved. And, of course, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, all that stuff. Just amazing stuff. And, you know, I'm a little kid listening to these. And my musical taste just went from all this. Another couple we had 8 tracks and, well, this one here we only had the vinyl. But this is the best of the guests here. This one was played constantly in my house. Absolutely love it. Still think this is one of the very best greatest hits albums of all time. The first side especially, with These Eyes, Laughing, Undone, No Time, American Woman, and No Sugar Tonight, New Mother Nature. I mean, that's as good as a side of vinyl gets. And it's just an amazing thing. That introduced me to Burton Cummings, which is my next point. So my mom was a huge Burton Cummings fan. And so when his solo records came out, we had both of these on vinyl and 8-track when I was a kid. I heard them until I was sick of them. And then later on, years later, I went back and I just absolutely love these records, both of them. This is the first Burton Cummings, had the hit Stand Tall on it. Also, I'm Scared. But I really like the song Birch Magic. It's probably my favorite. He has a couple cover songs on here. Nothing Rhyme, the Gilbert O'Sullivan song is really good. That's Enough, the Ray Charles song. So it kind of got me into different kinds of music as well. And then this album's a little more rocking. It's my Own Way to Rock. And this one I actually like a little better. But, I mean, stuff like Charlemagne and Timeless Love, Never Had a Lady Before. What a great album. And I still listen to those constantly to this day. And I have to thank my mother for getting me into those. A couple more we had on 8-track when I was young that we heard all the time were Stranger in Town from Bob Seger. And this one has so many memories for me. I mean, we would travel to, there's a place where we go to swimming called Lava Hot Springs, about a half hour to 45 minutes from here. And we'd play 8 tracks. And this one we played almost every time we went there. Stranger in Town. It's just an amazing record. It's still my favorite Bob Seger record, except for maybe his first Rambling Amble Man record. But wow, I love that album. And then this was the other one that we played constantly in the car on 8-track, was Fleetwood Mac Rumors. So these albums were basically the ones I grew up listening to, and these kind of shaped where I went. And then my next album, I'll just show one more, and this is the first album I ever bought on vinyl with my own money, 1978, I believe. And this is a compilation, and this is the Beach Boys super hits. It's got 20 songs on it. You know, it doesn't sound great, but on my little record player, it sounded awesome. I think I might have had a little one, and then we had one of those, you know, console ones. We'd play them on, and they'd have the thing where you could stack the records, and they'd play a side, then you'd flip them over, play the other side of all those, you know, like 6 records at a time. But this one I played constantly. I still love this. It's got some great songs on it. I mean, it's a little beat up now, but I still play it every once in a while. So next up, I will go, you know, I'll do a short series of this, like I said, and we'll go to now. But this is just such a great idea that whoever came up with this idea, I don't know who started this thread, but I know I was inspired to do it from my great friend JC. I'll leave a link down to his video below, and I will see you on the next one. Have a great day, everyone.